Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you this morning on this dark and dismal November morning. This is a multi-location hybrid meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee, which is open to the press and public on request. This meeting will not be broadcast live. However, a recording will be made available as soon as possible after the meeting is concluded. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings. I have had no requests from people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Please can members attending via Microsoft Teams refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you want to speak. May I remind members that as per statutory guidance made under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by the members and officers who are attending this meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting. So can I ask that you all please use your cameras for the duration of this meeting. Please remember to keep your microphone muted when you are not talking. Moving on to the agenda. Welcome and apologies. Jade, do we have any apologies, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Davis and Councillor, bear with me a sec, sorry, 2 seconds, and Councillor Byrne. Apologies.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Jade, please can you ask members in alphabetical order to state whether they have any interest to declare?
Yes, thank you. So starting with yourself, Councillor Ashley.
Not any that I'm aware of.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, please.
My wife is in receipt of a pension from the Greenwich Pension Scheme. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Callagher, please.
We can't hear you, Mr. Callagher.
Seems to be an issue with your sound, Mr. Callagher.
We're still unable to hear you. Have you got your mic muted, perhaps? No. What is it?
No problem. Just 2 seconds. I'll see if I can come back to yourself and fix the system for you now. If we just move on to yourself, Chair, with declarations.
My husband's in receipt of a pension from Torbank.
Thank you. And Councillor Williams.
That's the same. In receipt of pension, wife in receipt of pension from Torbank.
I can see Mr. Rees is online as well. Any declarations for yourself?
For Adapo, I have a very small pension from Torbank, and as it's on the agenda, it's relevant. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Callagher, I'll see if I can fix the sound for yourself and I'll come back to you.
Chair, I better come back and declare a pension as well while I'm at it.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about that one. It's a very small one, like others. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We'll just pause for a few seconds to see if we can get Mr. Callagher back online.
Chair, it might be worth Mr. Kelly logging off and trying to log back on. That sometimes works.
Would you like to try that, Mr. Callagher? Thank you. I can see you, Mr. Kelleher. Have we got sound? No, we still can't hear you.
Or otherwise I will get in touch with Dalek now.
He's gone again now.
Yeah. Or put the decorations in the chat as Nigel just suggested. That might work.
Yeah, if there's any difficulty,
Phone was still quorate if we wish to continue. Mr. Kelleher hasn't come back at the moment. Shall we proceed and then keep an eye out and see if he joins us? The report starts on page 3 of the agenda.
Hi, good morning everyone, and thank you, Chair. So I'm here today to present to you our Audit of Accounts report for Torfaen County Borough Council for the financial year 2023-24. This is a report that summarises our findings to date for the audit of the annual reports and accounts. I hope members had a chance to read the report. Do you want me to stop, Chair, as I can see the Mr. Kelleher is back in the meeting?
Yeah, if you just pause there a minute, it seems you haven't really started. Hi, Mr. Kelleher, can we hear you now? No, we can't hear you. You can obviously hear us. So the suggestion from Dalit is that you put your declaration in the chat portion and it'll be read out here. And can I suggest, if you want to speak, if you raise your hand icon, and we'll just have to look for it in the chat. Is that okay? Is that okay with everybody else? Is that okay, Dalit, if we do it that way?
yes, that's fine. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. We've just moved on to item 3, and Alice was just about to present their report, which starts on page 3 of the agenda. Thank you, Alice. Sorry for the interruption.
So I was just about to say that I won't be taking you through every item that's included in the report. I'll be speaking about the key areas, but I will be more than happy to take any questions on anything that's contained in this report. So I'm going to start on page 7 of the of the report pack, which is the introduction. I'm starting here just to highlight that at this point in time, we do have some outstanding audit work that we're still undertaking alongside finance officers. This has moved on from the report that I've given here. Obviously, there's a week's lead time, so I thought I would update members on where we are at as it stands. So we are still completing substantive testing of income, creditors, property, plant and equipment and related notes. The work has moved on significantly and there's only a few items outstanding around that work, and we're working with officers to clear that before the full council meeting, which I believe is the 19th of November, and we're confident that working with officers will be able to complete that work. We then will also have to agree the final version of the annual report and accounts, and we'll I've also noted there the reporting threshold we use is £199,000 this year, and we'll report any misstatements, corrected or uncorrected, above that level to you. In addition to this level of materiality, we also identify key areas of specific interest for the users of the accounts. For this year, there are two key areas that we've set a lower materiality for. This includes senior officer salary, benefits and compensation, and we've judged a suitable level of materiality to be £1,000 there. And also then transactions with related parties of officers and elected members, which we have set a lower materiality of £10,000 for. Moving on then to page 11, we are proposing that, subject to the completion of the work I've already highlighted, that we will be issuing an unqualified audit opinion on this year's financial accounts and annual report. The details of our opinion are included in Appendix 1 for you if you wish to see the full detail of that opinion. Moving on to page 12, as I mentioned earlier, we do report on any misstatements above that reporting threshold. So we have 3 uncorrected misstatements as it stands above that level. So we have one classification issue of 500k, and then 2 smaller, 2 issues around the Cardiff Capital Region joint operation, one of £1,396,000 and one of £822,000. Representations of these have been provided to us, and they haven't been corrected by management due to the level of the errors, so they're not above the materiality. We also reported some corrected misstatements. I don't plan to take you through those in any detail, but they are outlined in Appendix 3, so should you wish to review them. Finally, I'll just take you through page 13, which is other significant issues which we choose to report to those charged with governance. So there are 2 issues that we've identified this year, which are the production, timeliness and quality of certain working papers for the accounts, and then also issues with property, plant and equipment, the revaluation process and the accounting associated with that. The details are there for you to read in the report, and again, I'm happy to take any questions, but it's worth highlighting we are working closely with officers to resolve these issues going forward for the 24-25 audit cycle, and those meetings have been very productive so far, so we're confident that we can work together to resolve those issues that we found this year. So at that point, I'm not going to take you through any more about the report, and I'm happy to take any questions and go back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Right, are there any questions? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that point about the property, plant and equipment re-evaluation process, it's just really to understand perhaps what the local authority perspective was in response.
Yeah, if you'd like me to address that point. So, I think it is fair to say that this year has been a slightly unique year in terms of us as an authority, we've gone through a lot of change in terms of personnel and things like that. So, you know, the issues that are captured here, they are issues that we encountered in doing the accounts. But I think the critical thing for me to highlight is they're all things that we've either been able to address during the audit window, so they are corrected and reflected in the revised accounts, but also, you know, the process aspect of those, we're confident we can resolve in readiness for next year. And the valuation process itself actually starts around this time of year. So we've had detailed communication with our colleagues in property management who either undertake or commission those valuations. So we're much clearer, we've been much clearer with them, they've got a clear understanding about what we require, and we also have an understanding about what we're going to receive and how we need to reflect that in the account. So from our point of view, yes, they're captured as significant issues, but from our perspective, they've either already been resolved or they're perfectly resolvable for the forthcoming financial year or forthcoming set of accounts. So no major concerns from our point of view. But, you know, acknowledge that, you know, there were some issues, but ultimately they've been resolved or will be resolved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Can I come in with another question?
Yes.
Sorry.
Well,
This was really in Appendix 3 and page 22. Oh, damn. Sorry. The report's now vanished on me. Sorry, it was obviously there's mention of the PP again there on page 22, which I think you've covered. Sorry, you've mentioned the PP on page 22, but on page 23, it was just noting the point about note 33, officers' remuneration, incorrect employer contribution rate being applied for senior officers. Given that we've now had an announcement of employers' contribution change in the budget, again, just asking the question of what was the issue, how's it resolved, and are we confident that we'll be fine going forward?
Can you answer that one again?
Yeah, that's fine. So just to be clear, Sharon will correct me if I'm wrong, but this issue was to do with the pension rate as opposed to the national insurance rate, which is what's just been announced in the budget. But I think the most critical thing to highlight here is the correct percentage and rate was applied in actual payroll. So there's been no issue in that respect. You know, it's not as though there's been an error on the payroll side. This is more to do with how we've accounted for the rate. Basically, without going into the full gambit of what the issue is, we've applied a rate in accounting terms based on what we expected it to be for the year, which varies slightly from the actual rate. But yeah, just to provide reassurance, there's no fundamental issue in terms of what is actually being collected and paid over to the pension fund in respect of all officers, not just, you know, this has been highlighted against senior officers, no, but it's the same process for employees, so it's nothing unique to senior officers. But yeah, again, there's no actual issue underlying that. It's more of a presentational thing. Okay.
Well, thank you for that, and obviously, you know, it's not particularly material or substantial, and finally there is the unqualified opinion, so, you know, it's more small-scale stuff, but I thought you'd expect me to ask a couple of questions, so I have.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Mr Marquis, your hand is raised.
Your Chair, but did Alice want to come back on that question before I go into mine?
I was wondering that, but I thought I'd let you know I could see you. Alice, do you want to come back with that?
Yes, thank you both. I think it's always a hard balance with these reports, making them concise but also providing enough information. And to be fair to Rob and the team, I think what we'll do before we issue the final version of this for council is provide that little bit more explanation on that issue to make it clear that it wasn't an issue on what was charged to individuals. So I just wanted to reassure the committee, I guess, that we'll just add a little bit more information into that before we provide the final version.
Thank you, that's appreciated. Right, Mr Marquis.
Diolch, Chair, and diolch, Alice, and the audit team for all of this work. And thank you for the unqualified opinion, very much appreciated. I just wanted to ask a question about the
the first significant issue that you brought up in your report on page 13 there, reference to some issues, some delays with papers either presented to you or not being available for you to carry out your work. Did that, impact significantly on the length of time that it took for you to do the report? And therefore, did it cost us anything more than what you already charged to do the audit? And I'm glad that, fingers crossed next year, this isn't going to come up. Thanks. Diolch.
Would you like to respond to that, please?
Thank you for the question, Mark. I think the 2 points that you make are linked. I think our initial plan was to have most of the audit work completed earlier in the year than we are now. But due to some of the issues I've outlined, it has crept along the timetable further than we would have liked on both sides. But ultimately, it means we're still going to hit the end of November statutory deadline, and actually you still probably will be one of the first local authorities that finish. So ultimately, it hasn't impacted the sign-off, but it has meant that we've had to kind of be carrying our work later in the year than we would have liked. I think the reason that it's taken that much longer is at that point that we identified some of these issues, rather than having staff not able to complete any work while we were waiting for the working paper issues to be resolved, we would have released them to work on other audits. So that means that the Torfaen isn't charged for their time because they're not working on Torfaen audits, but it did probably lead to some further delays while we waited for those working papers. You can imagine the summer is a very tight window for us to complete all the local government audits, and there's very precise resourcing from our side to get those audits over the line. So as soon as there's some slippage, it does have consequences, which what we've seen here. But ultimately, we will be signing off by the deadline and early in November. So it hasn't ultimately impacted that element of the sign-off.
Thank you very much. Mr. Green, would you like to come back?
Yeah, so just to follow on from that point, and it is stated in the report, this wasn't a global issue with all working papers. It says in the report there were certain ones where this applied. I think it's important to emphasise that we're only, and Audit Wales clearly, we're only in the second year of Audit Wales working with a new audit regime, new auditing standards. So there has been a bit of a change required in terms of what we need to provide. We've also been using a new system for the exchange of information between auditors and officers for the first time this year. So I think some of that has introduced naturally a bit of uncertainty, and in some cases perhaps we've not been clear on exactly what's required or why it's been required. But I think it's important to emphasise that Alice referred earlier the fact that we are in close conversation. We do intend to have a debrief post-audit to try and work through some of those issues to ensure that that doesn't present itself as an issue in future years. But I say, to reiterate, it wasn't a wide-scale problem. It was with specific areas. So we will address that going forward.
Thank you. Councillor Ashley, your hand is raised.
Yeah, I'm just slightly curious about what various and various at the bottom of 23 is. I presume it's typos and various things that need to correct and you picked up. Is that fairly minor on our report? I'm just curious as to the incident and such things. It's obviously something you put on there. I would imagine it's not something you don't numerate it. So I'm just wondering what the occurrences of such things.
Sorry, which point are you referring to specifically?
On bottom of page 23, you picked up you picked up the various things, and then you've got various. It's just curious as to what, being a good scrutineer, I've picked that one up. I imagine it's just typos and various holics of.
Yes, sorry, I was looking at page 13. That wasn't helping me.
No.
Yes, I know. I can see that point there. Yes, these are kind of minor typos. They might be small amendments to disclosures, so whether or not specifically altering notes or the primary statements. And it is a kind of a catch-all for things that we don't feel the need to report to you in detail, but that we just wanted to highlight there were other kind of areas of correction in addition to those that we fully detailed for you.
By the look of it, we don't do many by the sound of it. It's all fairly accurate, is it?
As in for disclosure amendments, sorry.
Yeah. By the look of that, there's not a lot of that going on. So I'm trying to get a flavour of what that's like.
I see. I don't have the total number of those that were included under those catch-all. We do provide a detailed issue log to officers, which has the extent of all the issues. So I don't have those numbers to hand to comment on that, I'm afraid, but I'm sure me and Rob could provide an update on that for how many there are.
I don't particularly want that.
Okay.
No. It's just the wording and what it meant. That was intrigued by that as much as anything, because you have a language with all of your own on that one. So it's a learning curve as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Actually, I think it's just a cover-all for all the little bits that we don't need to know all the miniature about, I think. Like, Councillor...
No, occasionally, Chair, it's useful to know what it means.
Yes, yeah, I agree. Councillor Williams.
Sorry, I just wanted to check. I thought I heard you say, Alice, that it was still the case that Torvine would be one of the first to submit. Was that what I heard?
Yes, I think that's what I heard.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Chair.
Yeah. In which case, I think congratulations are due to all parties for having done this work in the timescales, because again, it's positive to see that we still remain a very efficient and effective council in terms of our returns. I'd like to note that, please.
Yes, I'll second that. There's an awful lot of work that goes into these reports, and it has to be accurate, and I appreciate that it all falls into place nicely. Thank you. Are there any more questions with regards to this report? Right. Moving on.
Just to confirm that I have Mr. Callagher that he's in receipt of a small pension from Torvine. If you could just nod to confirm that for me. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Right, I think that concludes agenda item 3, and we're moving on now to agenda item 4, which is the statement of accounts 23-24. Robert Green, Head of Financial Services, please can you present the report?
Thank you, Chair, and morning, everyone. And yeah, my report is very short and sweet. It really just follows off the back of the report that Alice has taken you through already. You know, I've already alluded to it a little bit with my response to a couple of questions, but I think it is important to highlight that this has been a slightly unique year from Torvine's perspective. You know, me myself being part of that, you know, change from Dave Lilly to myself, and we've had, as I said, some churn in the team. We've used the new audit kind of system for exchanging information for the first time. So I think, you know, that context is necessary to explain, because I think that does explain partly why there's possibly a couple more issues being highlighted than you would have seen in previous years, but also the time of year that we're having this discussion. You know, normally this would be ideally a month or even 2 months earlier, but I think the fact that we're still one of the first in Wales, and we feel that it's been a longer process than normal, is a real achievement. And you know, I just want to put on record my own thanks for Sharon and her team in particular, but everyone across the section who's contributed to this, because it is a huge piece of work. It doesn't always grab the attention that things like the budget do, but it's critical and, you know, really important and vital work that we do. So yeah, I just want to capture that. In terms of the report, there's not really an awful lot to say. Obviously, you know, our first and foremost concern is, are we going to receive an unqualified opinion? That's Audit Wales's intention. So you know, that's the be-all and end-all ultimately. In terms of the issues that have been highlighted, hopefully I've provided assurance that A, we know what those are, we recognise what needs to be done, we've either already done what needs to be done, or we will address that going forward. So, you know, we're on top of it, and, you know, we're confident that, you know, we'll be in a good place this time next year. In terms of the misstatements that are captured within the audit report, obviously there are a couple of uncorrected misstatements. Our fundamental reasoning for leaving those as uncorrected is, A, they're not material, first and foremost, but also they're things that are particularly complex in terms of adjusting in the accounts, and with that materiality in mind, you know, that kind of balance between the input required and the outcome is not quite there. So what we'll do is we'll ensure they're reflected correctly in the next set of accounts for 24-25. And then the corrected misstatements are exactly that. You know, they are corrected, and you know, the PPE issues that have been encountered, you know, we've recognised those. We've corrected them in the accounts because, you know, some of them were material, so no issue there. And again, as I said already, we will put in place robust processes for next year to ensure that we don't have a repeat of that situation for 24-25. You know, other than that, in terms of the report, there are several appendices. The first one of those is what Audit Wales called the inquiries of management and those charged with governance. So in Appendix 1, you can see there's a series of questions that we provide a response to. So we've done that. Audit Wales have received that. I believe that's all been accepted from their perspective. You've then got a set of the accounts. So that's the they are, I won't call them draft accounts because there is a distinction between draft and final. Draft accounts are done at the end of May, but this is almost a provisional final set of accounts, pending, as Alice said, the kind of final loose ends of the audit being tied up over the coming few days. But that set of accounts you've got appended reflects those corrections that we've made in the accounts. You've also got a copy of the letter of representation, so that is once the council have met and hopefully approved the accounts on the 19th of November, that's something that yourself, Chair, and Nigel, as Section 151 Officer, will sign, and that needs to be submitted back to Audit Wales before they go through their own certification process, which effectively draws a line under the audit then. Other than that, I don't really think there's much else I need to say, but happy to take any questions that any of the committee may have.
Do we have any questions? Councillor Peter-Jones, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to put on record my thanks for all the hard work that's gone on. And as Rob just said, we have had staff changes and system changes, and I think that will all be recognised. I know other members of this committee have said it. I just put my thanks on record as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Are there any other queries, questions? Certainly.
If the committee will just indulge me for a couple of minutes. This will obviously be my last set of accounts that I will sign. I don't know how many I have signed, but I think it's about 18 or 19 sets of accounts. So it's a long time. So it's nice that we've got an unqualified audit opinion. It has been a different year this year. You know, obviously, you know, we lost Dave and Rob came in, which probably left more on Sharon's shoulders than would have been the case had Dave been around. So I think the fact that we've got a good set of accounts and the fact that they're unqualified, I think, you know, Rob has said it, but I think, you know, as a committee we ought to acknowledge, you know, the role that Sharon's had to play. We've always enjoyed an excellent working relationship with our auditors, and I see no reason why that won't continue. So thanks also to Alison and her team. It's the last time I'll have the pleasure of thanking Alison and her team. Touch wood, I hope it's the last time I have to do that. And I'm sure the issues we've encountered this year on both sides will easily be rectified by all getting together and working our way through. As Rob has said, it's a new way of auditing, and we've got to adapt to that. But yeah, just thank you to everyone. Thank you to the Audit and Governance Committee over the years for scrutinising the accounts. And this time next year, it'll be Andrew's name who will be on it. But more importantly, it'll be Andrew's name on the council tax bills as well.
Yes, on behalf of all the committee and everybody else, I'd like to thank you for all you've done over the last few years as well. It's always been a pleasure to work with Torvine. You know, I've done it a couple of years now and have no really serious worries about what goes on here. Everybody's always able to answer any questions I do have. I do appreciate that. Accounts are not my forte, but there's always somebody who can answer my questions. Thank you. Any other comments or questions, queries? No. Right, the recommendations are on page 28. I'm assuming everybody's read them. Please can you state if you're against the recommendations or wish to abstain, otherwise we'll take them as agreed and accept this report. I can see nobody abstain. Oh. Councillor Ashley, your hand is raised. Are you happy with it?
I'm very happy with it. I was just agreeing.
That's okay, that's fine then. We're all in agreement, so we'll take them as agreed. Thank you.
Move that. Thank you.
Right, moving on to agenda item 5, which is the date of the next meeting. So I'm sorry you won't be with us. We will. Oh, right, so there we go. Kicks it on you then. Right, the next meeting will be held on the 30th of January 2025. Thank you for all your attendance and contributions. I'll now close the meeting and I'll wish you all happy Christmas and a happy New Year. Thank you. Bye.